Hey guys, Sean with HouseMax Funding. I am joined this morning by HouseMax VP of Operations, Aaron Ovcharzik. By the way, you guys have the two hardest names in the company to spell or pronounce. Aaron Ovcharzik, our VP of Operations. Kevin Riggles, our Area VP for Central Texas. Good morning, guys. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Kevin, as somebody new to the space, right? We plucked you a few months ago out of the small business lending space after 10 years successful run there, and you moved from really an inside sales role into outside sales with a mandate of, we don't want to see you in the office, right? We want to see you out having meetings with borrowers and builders and going to lunch and doing all those things and turning back the clock 20 or 30 years to that old school way of doing business. And you've fully embraced it. What has it meant for you to move out of a role where you were office 5 days a week to really going out and being able to interact with our borrowers on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's been wonderful to say the least. I think it's, being inside sales and kind of being insulated within a company for 10 years, you kind of feel like you lived under a rock a little bit, right? So getting out there and really meeting people and growing that network and, finding the investors and talking to them, hearing about their projects, walking their projects, it has been a great learning experience and something that's enjoyable. I love to, hop in the truck and drive around and, say hi. So.
Yeah, and you're finally getting some sun after 10 years in the office.
Yeah,
you're
I know, right?
Working on your tan. Huh? It's all those golf games and
Yeah,
all
exactly.
the golf, Aaron, and patio lunches. Meanwhile, this guy never gets to leave the office as VP of Operations. So, Aaron, let's shift gears. So it's funny as we do these podcasts and create content. It's almost always salespeople, and I've been wanting to get you in here for a while because I think what we do on the operational side of the company, just in terms of the borrower experience, is equally or more important than what we do on the sales side. Because I think it's easy for guys like Kevin and me to go out and build relationships and bring loans in, but the real work starts once that application is in and the loan goes into process. Talk a little bit about our approach operationally and what you think that means to the borrower.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it starts with good borrower expectations, right? We want to make sure that we're laying out from start to finish what it's going to look like to process the loan, right? The timeline, the documents required, all that good stuff, right? We don't want to waste anybody's time. We understand that, the borrowers are busy and their time is valuable. So we want to make sure that we're meeting those expectations and good communication, right? I think is really where that boils down to. So the more we can reach out to the borrower, the more we can, continue to set those expectations ultimately so that, the borrower has that good experience and wants to come back for round 1 and round 2 and round 3 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's interesting your background because you're a chemical, you got your A&M shirt on. So,
right.
Right, where do you go if you're going to be an engineer in Texas? You go to A&M. Your background is chemical and engineering. You worked for a startup for many years, held a high level role there, and then got plucked out of there to come be the VP of operations for a hard money lender. And you and I have been here about the same amount of time. What is that first year? Just give us some insight into the life of a VP of operations at a hard money lender.
Yeah, for sure. It was an eye-opening experience. I think it really kind of reinvigorated my mind, right? I've been so rooted in technology and the semiconductor industry, really from a technical aspect, from an operational standpoint. But when I joined HouseMax, right, I started to learn, right, there's more to processing than just, clicking the buttons and going through the motions, right? It's really about how do we tie that in with the borrower, again, making sure that, as our process continues to improve, right, that we're also continuing how we communicate with the borrower, how we set expectations. So it's been fun. I've loved every minute of it. And, really it's all about continuous improvement to make sure that we have the best product out there and the best experience.
Yeah, I think on the operations side of the business here, and you guys have done a fantastic job of really finding opportunities to use technology, not as a crutch, but as a tool to create a more meaningful and streamlined borrower experience. So maybe talk a little bit about how we've leaned into technology to close loans faster and add to that surety of close. What's important to a borrower? It's transparency and surety of close. How have we used technology to ensure that we can meet those expectations?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's a delicate balance between a mixture of technology and then also, being highly customer facing. So we use technology and to some extent some AI, right, to really do some of the black and white processing behind the scenes so that we can make sure that we have that surety to close and we're moving things along. But again, we want to pair that with, highly customer-facing loan processors and loan officers and make sure there's that delicate balance, right? I truly believe that, if we can have crisp processes and good technology backing up, a good customer interface, that's the beautiful blend that is HouseMax, right? Not leaning too much into technology or the latter, but really kind of blending the two together.
Yeah, great. All right, so Aaron, Kevin, by the way, you guys look like you could be related. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the beer.
It's got 23 and me going.
It's possible.
We're gonna have to get a DNA check on you guys. There's got to be some relation somewhere down the line. Look, I think it's great that we've got a couple of people here that are newer with the company. I mean, Kevin, you've got a few months under your belt. Aaron, you and I started at the same time. And I love the fact that you've got 3 people sitting at the table that hold high-level positions at the company that are from a completely different industry. I think fresh perspective is always a benefit for any organization. But for somebody out there that's looking at a career change like we all made, or maybe looking at HouseMax as an option, moving over from a different lender, Kevin, talk a little bit about what the first few months have been like for you, just in terms of the culture and the training and all those fun things.
I mean, it's been wonderful. It's been like a way different than what I was at before, in a good way. I think, seeing the hustle from the team, everybody's in early, everybody's, ready to go. When they get there, they're on the phones, they're talking to their customers, finding out what they need. And everybody works together. So I think one of the cool things is it's very good collaboration across the teams. I think, there's not, dividers, everybody's right in the open there. So we all come and talk to each other. So it's a very open and collaborative environment that I think really fosters, innovation, success, and drives sales. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, Aaron, coming from a chemical engineering background, and I think what you were chief operating officer at your last company and moving into an entirely new space. What has that transition like been for you moving into HouseMax?
HouseMax is extremely fast paced, right? So as Kevin mentioned, I think the teamwork is really kind of the biggest aspect of that. So, when I was in engineering, it was, hands down, everybody's kind of plugged into the computer for lack of a better term. Here, as Kevin mentioned, there's no walls between us. We all sit in the same space. So we've really been focused on breaking down whatever barriers still exist between sales and operations and making sure that it is, a team effort focused on ultimately servicing the borrower. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about the culture. The founders, obviously, brilliant, very entrepreneurial, continually coming up with, opportunities to improve the borrower experience and product offering and all that stuff. So
yeah, well, it's been great. Again, I'll say this at the risk of sounding cheesy. You've both been a breath of fresh air for the team, phenomenal beards, a lot of fun in the hours. And I think that's one of the great things about HouseMax is we've got people from men and women from 22 years old. We've got summer interns that were 18. We've got 22 years old to, I think I might be one of the oldest people in the company at 55.
That's right.
But I love the collaboration. And I think at the end of the day, what's really important is that we're really driving a great borrower experience. We're growing at a manageable pace. We're having a lot of fun doing it. This is, I spent 15 years in a completely different industry. This is the most fun I've ever had in an office with a group of people. And yeah, it's just a pleasure to work with you guys on a daily basis. All right. Hey guys, Sean here with HouseMax. I am joined today by Vice President of Sales, James Ferguson, and Director of Sales, Landon Ashby. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Sean.
This morning, this afternoon, whenever you're watching, right? So collectively, you guys have done, James, you've been with the company since its inception in 2017. Landon, you've been with us for a handful of years now. Collectively, you guys have done quite literally thousands of loans. We're seeing recently a lot of buzz around DSCR. So James, we're seeing a ton of buzz right now around DSCR. And I think, I was looking at the numbers this morning, I think we put 26 DSCR loans in process at HouseMax just yesterday. What do you think is driving this feeding frenzy of activity that we're seeing around DSCR right now?
Well, Sean, I think it's multiple factors. One of them being is how aggressive the rates are right now as compared to conventional. We have rates with a 5 handle. It's less intrusive type of process, so a lot of folks are utilizing that. DSCR, low rate, and being able to get their either equity out of their projects or get it in some ROI situations. They're getting a return on their investment, and then they can move on to the next project. But houses are sticking around a lot longer than they used to. The flip market is not as a crazy quick turn. So now they're two-pronged approach to making sure that they can get their money out of it either through a DSCR or try to sell it. But the DSCR seems to be the highest advantage for them right now.
Yeah. Landon, you run one of the larger sales teams at HouseMax, and as we watch all of this activity around DSCR coming in every day, a lot of those loans are coming through your team. As you're involved in each one of those, just give us an idea, what kind of rates are you seeing going out on a daily basis right now for DSCR?
Rates look great today. I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff kind of poke down into the fives, the bulks. I would say low sixes still, but there's some opportunity to get some great rates down. And I think the lowest that we're offering today is like 5.5. So it's fantastic as we're having a lot of those conversations. A lot of the guys on my team are doing a big outreach, like an outbound effort to be able to talk to those borrowers. And a lot of people, like James had just mentioned, are seeing that as a good outlet for their properties in the event that they can't sell, or maybe they're doing a BRRRR strategy where they know they want to hold on to the property, but it's a good time.
Landon, you said BRRRR strategy. I'm going to quiz you right now. What is, I know there's like 7 R's or something in there, BRRRR. So I'll buy you lunch if you can tell us what the actual BRRRR is, each word.
Yeah, okay. I think I got it. Let me just make sure it's in the right order. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Repeat, there you go.
I think that's it. There's
BRRRR.
4 R's and a B. Yeah.
Perfect. James, just in terms of DSCR, as VP of Sales at HouseMax, you also run the deal desk. So every loan, the hundreds of loans that come through the system every month, you're the first set of eyes on them, and you're the first green light on those loans. For borrowers out there that are thinking about a DSCR loan with HouseMax, what should they be looking at as the best option to keep their rate low if it's a refinance, or get the most possible cash out if they're looking to cash out on that property?
I mean, you said it so well, Sean. I mean, if you're looking to get cash out, obviously you have to pay a little bit more in rate, still an aggressive cash out rate, but of course that's going to be a little bit higher on the interest rate. And then if you're looking just to rate and term and your leverage is in that 70% or below, you should be able to take advantage of those 5-handle rates, low 6 rates, and then rinse and repeat and keep going.
Yeah, perfect. Len, one of the great tools that we have for our sales team and for our borrowers is the self-service DSCR portal, where our originators are able to send this link to our borrowers, and they can go in and play with different variations of leverage, origination, and rate in order to look at side-by-side comparisons and find the best possible deal. What has that tool meant for our borrowers?
I think it's really 2 things that it does for them. The first being transparency, because they can get in there and they can actually structure the deal the way that they want to see it. And then if there's other ways that they want to look at it, they can do that all their own. And that's not to say that we don't have reps that will have that conversation, that we're eager to have those conversations. But in certain scenarios, you're up at 12 o'clock and you want to look at what a loan looks like, you have that flexibility and you can get in there and do it yourself. Past that, it's flexibility on terms. Just the way that we have it built out, like you just mentioned, they can adjust the rate, they can adjust the fee on their own so that they know what they're getting and they know the options that they have. They can pop out, a multitude of scenarios on each loan that they want to take a look at, and they can get that in live time and see it immediately. They don't have to have someone to talk to be able to get that. And I feel like that gives a huge advantage whenever maybe you just don't want to talk, or you're not in a position that's not business hours and you want to be able to look at what you can do with us. And then, like I said, of course, on the back end, if you have questions, we have people to take those questions and help walk people through those scenarios. But it just gives a lot of flexibility and transparency on what we can do on DSCR.
Yeah, well said, well said. It's funny you mentioned James and I were high-fiving the other day, because as we were building out this self-service DSCR sizing platform for our borrowers, and the idea was, this vision that we had in our head was investors could access real-time rates in their own time. And I remember one of the first ones that came through, we got into work the next morning and it popped through at like 12:03 a.m. Somebody sized the deal, chose their option, completed the application. It was everything that we built it for, because we know most most investors, they don't want to talk to a salesperson if they don't have to. And especially with DSCR, right, James? I think it's really moved us more into an advisor role and someone that's there to help move the loan along as investors can go in and choose their own ending, so to speak, just in terms of rate, leverage, and origination. Talk a little bit, James, about some scenarios where you've seen that be a benefit to our borrowers.
Well, it really helps that a borrower can kind of toggle through their scenario, right? And a benefit to them is they're like, maybe they don't have it rented yet, and maybe they're looking at market rents or their possible rents, and they're making a decision whether they want to keep this or not. So they can use that tool and not have to go back and forth with a rep, and they can use that tool and be like, okay, this might make sense. It could actually help plan out their business model a little bit. And a lot of folks have shifted their business model because of the tool that we've given them, because they have that at their fingertips, and they can say, hey, half this portfolio is going to go this way and half this is going to go this way, and we can plan for that.
So James, as the HouseMax deal desk, and again, the first set of eyes on the hundreds of loans that we put in process on a monthly basis, for a borrower that's looking at a DSCR loan, what's the important information or documents that they'll want to have in front of them as they're looking at the initial sizing of that deal?
Yeah, you want to make sure you have an understanding of the house's taxes, what the annual taxes look like, and make sure you're parsing out if it's a homestead, because you can't homestead some of those rentals, so make sure you get rid of that. You're also going to look at what does your annual insurance look like. HOAs play a factor as well. And then you marry that up with what the rent could look like, and you should be able to get a good calculation of a realistic DSCR for you. Making sure that you're using rents in the area that are plausible, not what you might be a good salesman and be able to get a high lease, but you want to make sure that it's a rent that's marketable.
Yeah. So Leonard, as we're seeing on a daily basis, these DSCR loans coming in, like I said, I think put 26 new ones in processing yesterday. What I'm seeing is investors come in that have 2 rentals, and we're seeing applications come in from investors that own 200 rental properties. How does a product like the HouseMax DSCR benefit both those new investors or smaller investors and those institutional investors?
Yeah, great question, Sean. The way that I see that it benefits is that it fits everybody in every scenario. The math is the math. That's the beauty with DSCR. So there's not so much subjectiveness to it. It's all objective. It's based on the deal numbers. It's obviously based on the ratio, your credit, so that the way that someone would apply and be approved for a DSCR loan is going to be applicable to somebody with 2 experience versus 200. And like you said, we do both. We see I would say a large bulk is somebody that maybe is buying a property they're going to hold on to and they want a DSCR out of the gate, or like James had mentioned previously, that they might want to take some equity out of a rental to take to a new purchase that they're going to do. But then we also have some large investors that want to do a portfolio loan with us that might be, 50, 60, 90 properties, whatever it may be. And the cool thing is the math's a math. So as long as you're able to, have all the information in hand, plug it all the way in, you're going to get pricing through our tool, or again, if you talk to a rep or whatever the scenario is. But the math's the math. That's the beauty with DSCR.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. There's not much subjectivity to a DSCR loan. It's very much like a traditional Fannie Freddie, very objective and much more of a science than an art, for sure. So guys, we've talked a lot today about DSCR financing. We've talked a lot about fix and flip financing, but I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about ground up and ADU financing. And James, what kind of loan products are available, and what kind of rate and terms are you seeing for builders out there?
Absolutely. Sean, we've done a great job of listening to our borrowers that have done ground up construction, and their biggest constraints are time and having as much as they can, least amount of money as they possibly can into the project. So that's why we've made our loan to cost as high as we possibly can, 85 to 90%, which is top of market, as well as the term, 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months are available for folks out there, so they can get these projects done and have time to market them and go sell them and not stress about the end of that term.
So guys, just in looking at ground up construction, in a lot of markets where we've been doing high level ground up construction loan volume in the last several years, we're seeing a shift in the market where that $3, $4, $5 million Lux build isn't trading. Are you seeing a lot of the builders that we've worked with pivot out of that Lux space and into more affordable housing?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit locally, and then of course nationwide. we seen a lot of builders that are the savvy builders that will look and say, hey, this product traded really well a few years ago with the interest rates being low. Now we need to make a product equally as quality, but maybe not as quite as expensive. Maybe the square footage is parsed down a little bit, or the customization is a little bit different. But they're being real successful on buying larger lots and then dividing it up and building a similar luxe product, just not quite as expensive. And a lot of the markets are seeing folks really jump on those builds.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot, aren't we? Of that, houses that are a little bit more first time or second time home buyer, luxe feel at a much more affordable price. So let's have a conversation around ADUs or dadus, as they say in Seattle. Right? Let's have a conversation, guys, around ADUs. I was just in Seattle, spent 3 days with a large group of investors up there. There's a ton going on, and we know Seattle. San Diego has kind of been at the forefront of the ADU frenzy. Florida now just relaxed all their guidelines statewide. I think we're going to see an explosion in ADU in Florida. We're seeing a lot in Atlanta and Charlotte. Throw a dart at a map right now, and that city is getting aggressive on ADUs. They see it as affordable housing. So, James Lannon, in all those cities, why do you think the ADU market has just exploded? And how has HouseMax been able to position ourselves as the go-to lender for builders in that space?
Folks still want to live in those cities. The price point has gone up still, even though we've seen a little softening in the market. It's still fairly expensive to live there. So a lot of the builders would recognize that and be like, how can I place, still a shorting of houses, how can I place people in these cities and make it to where they can live and either own or rent something that's what they want? And that's what ADU builders are doing. They're finding city centers and they're finding areas and they're finding neighborhoods where people want to live and they're making it affordable. So they'll build these things and they'll put it near mass transit. And it's just a great explosion of some really good properties and utilizing what's currently there in the space.
Anecdotally, I think it's because there's value in doing it in terms of the value you get on the back end. So I've got a guy that his model today is he'll find a deal that's got an existing structure. It's single family, it might be a duplex. It's got enough land to where he can then chop it up. So we'll take it down with a fix and flip loan. We'll give the loan for the renovation. So he'll do what he has to do to the house to begin with, while he also in the background is permitting, planning to do ADUs. This is up around Seattle, so in a lot of places he'll be able to build 2 ADUs, detached ADUs, at some point, and then we'll refinance the fix and flip loan into a new construction loan, and then he builds those things quick, and then there's a ton of value in being able to get those things up and listing them to sell them, or sometimes he'll DSCR and hold them. But his profits are going up exponentially through doing this, and it's a good time to take advantage of that kind of tax code in a lot of these areas because there's value in doing it.
Yeah, and we're seeing that these builders are really smart the way they're doing it. They're just doing a rinse and repeat. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel on every new ADU project. It's the same design, the same finish, the same paint, the same cabinets, everything the same. They've gotten really clever and smart about the way that they attack these ADU products.
Yep. Watching the ADU explosion has been interesting. It's kind of like if you paid attention in history class, all the big boats of the cars they sold in the 70s, and then the gas crisis came in the late 70s, and they built these small cars, and people, no one's going to buy those small cars. Well, guess what? They did, and the Japanese took over the American auto market. These savvy builders are like, people will still buy something smaller that has the same kind of feel and gets you where you need to be, i.e. these new ADUs.
Yeah, and they're really tailoring to the market, aren't they, James? San Diego's a great example. I spend a lot of time there. We've got an office there. San Diego, they're building 4 to sometimes 12 or 16 units behind a single family on a large enough lot, and then using those as rentals, right? Converting them to apartments, essentially. Where what we're seeing here in Austin, Landon, there's a couple builders that you and I are working closely with here that are taking down a 15 or 18,000 square foot lot with a tear down, knocking it down, and then putting up 3 single family residences, and then putting them on the market for $8 or $850 as an entry level home. So I think it's really interesting how each market, that ADU product is really tailored to the specific needs of that city.